You know what? Despite my computer's best efforts, I am in fact recording this video right now. Hey, it's Cecil. It's Monday when I'm recording it. If it's Monday when this gets posted, we'll have to see. Hopefully it will be. There is a cat behind me. His name is Dakota. In September, when I first started making videos again, I alluded to the idea that I might someday talk about the Homestuck Quadrants as they actually apply to troll society in Canon. Today is that day. This is that video. It is happening right now. For the past 2 months, that's right, 2 months, I have been working on a PowerPoint presentation. This is 1, to keep me on track, 2, to give you a visual when I inevitably get off track and start rambling, and 3, because I thought it would be fun, and that's what all the cool kids are doing these days. And I want to fit in. We have talked a lot about what they mean, how they could define relationships in the real world, because I think having more words to describe unique feelings is never a bad thing. It is often incredibly helpful to be able to put a name to that weird feeling that you just couldn't quite identify, especially with something as complex as interpersonal relationships. But we haven't really talked about, where quadrants really come from in Homestuck, what their purpose was, why are there for, what does it all mean, you know? Well, buckle in, buddy, because today we are going to talk about exactly that. The Homestuck Quadrants. We are going to be talking about their political, cultural, and reproductive relevance in Alternian and Beforean society. Let's go. Oh yeah, by me. So, first, we'll do the obligatory refresher on the quadrants, right? Here they are, laid out so nicely for us, right? This is how they are introduced to us. We've got the red romance, we've got the black romance, we've got the concupiscent quadrants, we've got the conciliatory quadrants. Yes, you're following. You remember? Good. Number 1 in this quadrant, right over here, we have matespritship, symbolized by the heart. This is the red quadrant, most similar to regular romance. Number 2, we've got moira allegiance, symbolized by the diamond over here. And this is the pink quadrant, most similar to queer platonic or alterous relationships. Then we have Kismicissitude, which is the black quadrant down here, most similar to an intense rivalry, and my face is about to cut us off, so let me scooch myself over here for the time being. There we go. And then we've got auspicism, symbolized by the clover. This is the ashen quadrant, and it's basically unpaid marriage counseling. So, sufficiently refreshed? Good! Now, first things first. What are Alternia and Beforis exactly? Alternia is the main troll planet from the universe that Homestuck starts in. Beforis is the pre-scratch version of Alternia, home to the Dancester trolls. The trolls on Beforis come first, as their game was the one that scratched to create Alternia's timeline. So basically, they're the same planet from different versions of the timeline, right? You've got Alternia, and Alternia is the trolls that meet the main kids of Homestuck through their intergalactic internet powers or whatever. These are the people that we're talking to and about, for the most part. These are the people who are telling us about quadrants. Beforis is the version of their planet that existed before they basically hit the reset button on the universe. Okay. So, hang on. I'm sorry. What is a scratch or a Dancester? I'm so glad you asked. A scratch is resetting a session of Spurb to to a random earlier point on the universe's timeline, resulting in a very different timeline that will eventually bring about a new Spurb session. So Spurb is the game that they are playing in Homestuck. This is the game that affects everything that's happening in their real lives accidentally to the kids, but on purpose and by design of the game, brings about the end of the world. And so the kids have to come together and they have to help basically create a new universe. And if their game goes successfully, before their universe is completely destroyed, they move on to the new universe. A Dancester is an ancestor who is pre-Scratch, so they come before, but they come from a different timeline, so knowing if they really come from earlier or later on the timeline is a little due to the nature of the game and a Scratch. They also come after, making them a descendant and an ancestor. I can't remember exactly who, but somebody in the game coined the term Dancester because, troll genealogy is messy. It's not canonically clear which group of trolls is the biological ancestor because troll reproduction, like I just said, messy. Both groups of players consider themselves the descendants and the other group the ancestors. So that is why they settled on Dancestors. 'Twas the peacekeeping option. Alright. Complexities of troll reproduction. This is the thing about the buckets. Yes. The thing about the buckets. Gotta love this sexy dude. I'm kidding. So, it's like test tube babies, kind of, and not. When the trolls come of age, the Imperial drone comes around. He is a drone. He's basically this robot, and his job is to come to collect 2 sets of genetic material from every troll. One is combined with their mate sprits, and the other is combined with their chismesis. And then the genetic material is taken away, and it's offered to the mother grub, and all of the troll genetic material that you could ever have nightmares of, is all mixed together into one big genetic yuck. And then the mother grub lays thousands of eggs all at once. And the trolls that come out of those eggs, called wrigglers, are basically the product of the strongest bound troll romances. Even with a slide about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because, firstly, what the fuck? Seriously. Why does a robot, I'm in the way again, why does a robot come to collect their genetic material? Why do I know this? All around, what the fuck? So valid, bestie. It's time for politics. I can't do that because my lips don't work right, but politics. Listen, troll politics. They're a time and a half. I wish I could get into every single thing, and maybe one day I will, but today is not that day, because today we're only talking about politics as they apply to romance and, by extension, procreation. So, I will be as brief as I can be. Politics and society, first things first, the hemospectrum. So, Alternia runs on a hierarchical caste system based on the hemospectrum. The hemospectrum is the spectrum of 11, once 12, different colors of blood that a troll can be born with. Rust is the lowest, and fuchsia is the highest, and the higher up on the hemospectrum that a troll is born, the more highly regarded in society that they are considered. The higher up trolls also tend to live much longer, while low blood trolls live a lot shorter. But because of the way that things are spread out, low blood trolls tend to make up the majority of the population, while the high blood trolls are a lot rarer. I am super in the way on like every conceivable level. Okay. Yeah. So you've got basically all trolls externally look the same, but internally not so much. And I believe that their eye color reflects their blood color. Don't quote me on that though, because I'm doubting myself on it. Alrighty. So next up, the Alternian Empire. I'm in the way again. Sorry, Condents. My bad. So at the very top of Troll Society is the all-female Fuchsia blood caste. There are only ever 2 of them alive at once. One is the Empress, who could have been alive for hundreds of thousands of years, and her one descendant. When the descendant becomes an adult, and is in a position where she's ready to rule over Alternia, she is expected to challenge the Empress for the throne. And if she wins, she takes over. If not, she presumably dies, given the violent nature of Alternian society. I say more on that in a bit. I don't know if I really get super into it. Again, I would love to get into troll culture with you guys, but a topic for another time. Now, let's talk about oppression, rebellion, and why this planet is populated by children. There's a lot of things that led to the oppression related to the hemospectrum, set up by the Empress, but it was set up and driven by a fear of trolls going extinct. Now, a lot of people did not like an oppressive system being set up. Obviously, most people do not like to be oppressed and to be controlled. Reproductive rights, all that good stuff. So it led to at least 2 major rebellions. The second major rebellion, which, both of them ended in failure, but when the second major rebellion ended in failure, all of the adult trolls on Alternia, after their genetic material was given to the mother grub, they were sent away into outer space, and they are now all over the galaxy, probably universe, whatever, conquering other planets to further the Alternian Empire. So now, the only trolls who stay are minors, and once they come of age, again, they will be expected to reproduce and then also be, sent away. Of course, bringing about the end of the world does tend to, slightly ruin that plan, which is definitely not a bad thing, except that it is, but Right, so that's a lot. But weren't we talking about quadrants? Yes, we were. We were talking about quadrants. See, they're living in this oppressive society, and reproduction, as well as many, many other things, are controlled by the government, or more specifically, the Empress. Because the failure to produce genetic material for both the mate sprit and the kitten assist buckets result in immediate execution. Yikes, That is why the red and the ashen quadrants, or not the ashen, the red and the black quadrants are considered the concupiscent quadrants. Their function is procreation, and it helps to, be into the person you gotta make some genetic material with, right? Like that makes sense. Of course, I am a sex-repulsed asexual, so the mere idea of this is like, haha, I would reach 18 on this planet and then I would be murdered. But, you know, I've made it to the ripe age of 22. And so far no one expects me to procreate, so stay winning. So far. So that's 2 of the quadrants, but what about the other ones? What about the ones that aren't necessarily for reproduction? So first things first, Moira allegiance. You've heard about this quadrant a lot. I talk about it a lot. It's my favorite because it's the one that I understand the most as someone on the aromantic spectrum. Conciliatory means to placate or pacify. So, firstly, going back, the hemospectrum that we talked about earlier. Not only do these trolls get higher up in society and they live longer lives, but the higher they are on the spectrum, the more prone they are to being violent and aggressive. On Alternia, this isn't seen as a bad thing necessarily, and there are a lot of situations that are considered justified to react with violence. However, you can't always be picking fights, and this is the point where a Moirel comes in. In Alternia, there is a more even-tempered troll who will become the Moirel of a more aggressive troll and helps to ground them. With this usually comes a deep friendship and something that I personally believe is very close to altruist attraction, but for trolls it serves a very, very specific purpose beyond just being partners. You know, you have the one person who is grounding the other person, who is helping them to think things through logically, who will be their buffer in a situation that could get them hurt. Now, the other conciliatory quadrant is auspicism. Ideally, when filling quadrants, a troll is going to find one mate spirit, I put auspicist, and I'm like, that's not right, and one schismicist, sorry, and there will be no crossover, no complication. That way, when the Imperial drone comes a-knocking, you know exactly what you gotta do and who with. But emotions are not always that simple, especially not in an aggressive species with so much violence promoted in its society. It's not uncommon for a mate spirit ship to sometimes slip into the dark quadrant or to find yourself feeling more positively about your schismicist. I really dropped the ball on this slide. I am so sorry. An auspicist is the third party intending to help facilitate and moderate emotional fluctuations for a more stable relationship and ensuring that at the end of the day, everyone will have the right person to give genetic material with, basically. I mean, in the long run, that is the point. There's something called oscillation, which is when you go in between the red and the black quadrant, but it's like heavily moderated. It's something that's expected to happen, and that is something else entirely that we're definitely not going to get into right now, but an auspicist is also very helpful in those situations. It helps with scheduling, it helps with just a bunch of stuff. But back to Moirels. I know, surprise, surprise. Other than helping to even out the tempers of more aggressive trolls, a Moirel is also important to the process of reproduction. Sometimes. Ideally, a troll is going to fill every quadrant, or at least 3 of them, before they're of age and the Imperial drone comes knocking, but realistically, it doesn't always turn out that way, and you might be short a partner. In the case that you have a mate spirit, but not a schismicist, or you have a schismicist, but not a mate spirit, in that case, that bucket will be filled by your Moirel instead. They basically take one for the team so that you don't have to get executed for the fact that you do not have a romantic partner in every way that the Empire expects you to. Yeah. So, that's fun. But anyways, To summarize, the point of the quadrants. Mate splits and kismacies are the reproductive and sexual quadrants. They are romantic life partners essential for not being executed by the Imperial drone for failing to procreate. So, who says romance is dead, right? Moirels are a close friend or an altruist partner with one even-tempered partner responsible for balancing out the more aggressive partner. They also act as a substitute for one of the concupiscent quadrants in the case that their partner doesn't have that quadrant filled. An auspicist is a couple's counselor for their less stable concupiscent relationships, helping them to either manage the oscillation between matesbridgeship and kismicissitude, or to stay in their appropriate quadrant even when feelings shift, change, fluctuate from time to time. Wonderful. And that is it. It doesn't feel like it. I feel like I have so much more to say, but this is why. This is why I made the PowerPoint. Oh, hello? Oh no. This is why I made the PowerPoint. Because I knew. I know myself. I knew I was going to be all over the place if I did not check myself. So, the PowerPoint was to keep me from going on too many tangents. There's like a million other video ideas that just talking about it has given me, but we'll cover those another time. So yeehaw. I would have never been able to make this wonderful video without the people who maintained the Homestuck wiki. It's been 5 or 6 years since I last read Homestuck, and while the knowledge is in my brain, there were a few things that I felt a little bit shaky on, and I needed to make sure to fact check all of those things, and oh man, the Homestuck wiki was the place I lived for the last 2 months. And you people, hello, for getting the Kismesis video from 4 years ago over 1.6 thousand views. Hello? That's my most viewed video on my channel. Do you know this? Are you aware? Do you know? And of course, my big sexy brain for remembering so much more than I thought I was going to remember. I'm kidding. So, what do you think? Did you learn anything? Do you understand more? Do you understand less? Have I just confused you? All of these answers are valid and okay. I am going to try and edit this video as quickly as possible, but one of my partners is going to be coming up to visit. So it might get cut short, and it might get posted a little bit late. As it be, so it do. But thank you for watching, and oh my gosh, outro stuff. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below if there is something that you feel like you've learned, if there are more questions that I've somehow raised, if you feel like I got something wrong, please keep that one to yourself. I feel anxious sharing information, and it's not important enough to be corrected. Please, I'm very fragile. You can follow me in the links in the description box below, and I seriously recommend, number 1, checking out my Twitch channel where I am live pretty much every single weekday if my health allows it, and number 2, checking out my Ko-fi because I have art and fic commissions open right now until the end of July. I have 10 slots open, only 1 has been reserved so far, and if you commission my art directly off of Ko-fi and use the code PRIDE at checkout, you will get 10% off. So that's cool, right? That's a thing. Yeah. If you're not interested in a specific commission, but you do want to help with supporting my videos, there is also just buying me a coffee or joining one of my membership tiers for some bonus content-y things. Any little bit helps. I'm currently at that point where I see the number in my bank account going down and down and down, and I'm like, okay, we're officially at that point where now that my health is doing better, both physically and mentally, it's time to try and start pushing my methods of monetization again, no matter how anxious it makes me. Anyways, be a bro, share this video with another bro who you feel needs to hear about Homestuck in 2022. And if you have not done so yet, subscribe! Because I'm hopefully back to making new videos every week, and they will hopefully be posted on a Monday.